at nextroundlive.com. Jim Dunaway, Lance Taylor, Ryan Brown, and Rockstar. Live from the Birmingham Racecourse Casino Studios, the next round, presented by Bud Light, is on now.
And we're now live on a Saturday, and we're here to bring in Millbank, South Dakota native Kalen DeBoer and let him be introduced as the new Alabama head coach officially. It was announced last night by the university. He arrived on campus, and today the official introductory news conference comes up at 1 o'clock Central Time momentarily. I'm Jim Dunaway along with Lance Taylor in our Disrupt the Media studios. We're the next round guys in Tuscaloosa. We have Ryan Brown and Emily Grace McWhorter, and we'll talk to them momentarily. After telling his team that he was leaving for Tuscaloosa, Kalen DeBoer arrives at age 49 with his family last night. Thousands of fans out at the airport, hundreds of fans at the football complex, and it became a very intense, exciting scene when the DeBoers got off the plane.
Yeah, it was such a somber atmosphere in Tuscaloosa after the announcement on Wednesday that Nick Saban was shutting it down after 17 years. And now the excitement is back. And you never can doubt Alabama fans. I mean, they showed up. From what I heard, I talked to a couple of people that were actually there last night, and they said it was just a buzz. And you saw DeBoer coming up to the fence and doing some fist bumps, and he addressed the team. And from what I heard, he said it's going to be an open-door policy. It's going to be a family. Nobody can replace Nick Saban, but he's going to do it his way. And from what I hear, players were pumped up when they walked out.
Okay, we're going to show you a scene, Tyler, if you can get it ready. The north end zone is where we're gathered today, where you will see the news conference setting here in a second. You'll get the opportunity to see where Kalen DeBoer will be introduced. Here's the way the format's going to go today, and it's going to be an introductory news conference there in the north end zone with a lot of friends of the program, boosters, board of trustees. You see Ryan standing by there getting ready to do his hit here in a second, too. And then the reporters will filed to two separate rooms, a print media and then an electronic media room, and Kalen DeBoer will go down there and take some questions and answers. So bring it back out here to us, and we'll get ready to set Brown up and bring him in from Tuscaloosa for the first hit. Just this was your guy from the beginning. The day Nick Saban officially, we got the word at 4:04 that he was retiring, you said if Alabama could go pick anybody, if you were the AD, you would go straight to Kalen DeBoer. Believe what you want from anyone else on who got offered, who didn't get offered, Jimmy Sexton playing, contractual games. You said one guy I would go talk to first, it was Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, to me, Greg Byrne got this right. And you just look at where DeBoer's been from Sioux Falls to Fresno to Washington. The guy does nothing but win, and he wins it at an incredible level. 3 national championships at Sioux Falls in year 2. Goes 14-0 and plays for a national championship just this past Monday night. Did it with a lot less talent. This guy is going to be a home run. Look, there are some things people are a little skeptical of the recruiting. I just had lunch with a Clemson fan, and he said, I'll give DeBoer 4 years, and he's out.
Did you take that bet?
I told him, what do you want to go? You tell me when you're scared.
I know where I want to go. I want to go to Ryan Brown, who is standing by in the north end zone, the zone area there at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Just days after Nick Saban announced his retirement, Alabama's about to officially introduce Kalen DeBoer. Brown, set the scene for us. Tell us what will happen and some of the things you know over the last 12 hours.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit unique, I think, guys. Different than what we've done before. So just behind me here on the stage, you're going to get a kind of the jersey presentation, the introduction. Behind me are Alabama dignitaries, boosters. The members of the media are to my left, to your right, as Scott is showing you right now. And on that stage, Greg Byrne and University President Stuart Bell are going to introduce the next head coach, Kalen DeBoer. They'll, my understanding is, present him with the jersey, the DeBoer jersey. I'm assuming number 1. Don't know that to be factual. Maybe he had a number back at Sioux Falls he wants to keep. And then we, the media, will break out and go do our one-on-one interviews with him, or not one-on-one, but with the TV and with the print media. And then I'm not certain what will happen after that, honestly. We've just been told we'll leave and go to a separate area for a separate news conference. And my assumption is he'll probably stand here and talk to the dignitaries that are here behind me here from the University of Alabama.
You knew when he had a coat on, we were going to get a word like dignitary at some point. That was on the bingo card.
I mean, this is, everybody's dressed to the nines there, man. It's like Easter Sunday.
Well, Lance, this happens once every 17 years. It's kind of like a comet that flies by, so you dress up for it, right?
Yeah, if I asked you, if I was like Kalen DeBoer, in 17 years from now, we'll be having his successor, would you say it was a good run for DeBoer?
Yeah, I would say Alabama fans would take that right now, and Kalen DeBoer would take that right now. I don't think there's any doubt. Who knows what college football is going to look like in 17 years, right? I don't even know what it's going to be like. So, yeah, I think everyone would accept that right now. No doubt. But, yeah, you're right. It is it's a dressy occasion. A lot of coats and ties. There's no doubt about that.
You want to just blow your mind. 17 years from now, Kalen DeBoer will be 66. It'll be about that time.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
I'll be lucky to be walking the earth in 17 years.
Or as Nick Saban likes to call it, still time for 3 more national championships if you want to hang around to 72. Brownie, I know you've talked with Emily Grace McWhorter, who's there beside you for our coverage today, and we expect this news conference to start in about 8 minutes at the top of the hour. And this is 12:52 Central Time if you're watching us around the country, so it's a 1 o'clock in the afternoon at Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa. But she was on the site last night with him getting off the airport and then his first chance to walk in and see the facilities he's inherited and the fan base. Just your thoughts of that scene again that we sort of relived from 17 years ago when Nick Saban arrived.
Yeah, I think he had to be blown away. Look, Washington's got a really good fan base, obviously. That is a great stadium. We call it Shaky Camera Game because when we were all growing up, they had not redone that stadium yet, and big plays, that camera would bounce up and down, that upper deck camera. So, look, that's a good fan base. They've been in big stadiums, loud stadiums before. But I don't know, I saw a photo last night of the Washington spring game, and there were like 5 people there. Somebody was making a joke. There were more people at Tuscaloosa Airport last night than were at the Washington spring game last year. So I don't really know. I mean, that had to be a little bit of culture shock, right? I mean, when Kalen DeBoer, for instance, took the job after Jimmy Lake was fired at Washington, I highly doubt there were that many people at the SeaTac, Seattle Airport, whatever their private airport is, welcoming him there. I think that had to be a little bit of culture shock. And, this sounds kind of crazy, but myself, Scott Forrester, and Emily Grace were at lunch at the world-famous Rama Jammas next door to Bryant-Denny here. When we arrived, and I made the point to them that he's got 2 teenage daughters. Their whole image of Alabama is probably Bama Rush TikTok, right? I mean, they've seen Bama Rush on TikTok and what that looks like. That is so famous. That's probably their entire image of the University of Alabama, and now they are about to be residents in Tuscaloosa, perhaps, who knows, students at the University of Alabama. So I would imagine there is a good bit of culture shock here right now.
But he is from South Dakota, so I think he'll fit in nicely, leaving the bigger city of Seattle to come down to Tuscaloosa. I want to ask you guys this quickly, and I'll go you first, Brown, and then let LT follow up, and we'll give you time to get set up for the news conference, which is about 5 minutes and 45 seconds away. But Travaris Robinson is to Georgia. Kirby Smart and them making that official today after 2 years with Nick Saban. He's going to be co-defensive coordinator with Glenn Schumann. Will Muschamp is moving off the field there. Just give me your reaction to that, Brown, and then we'll let you get on your way as we continue our coverage of the Kalen DeBoer news conference brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. Go ahead, Brownie.
Not surprised, guys, entirely, because this was something that had started when Nick Saban had yet to announce his retirement. Before Nick Saban announced his retirement, in fact, the day our phones started blowing up and we all started making phone calls to people inside that building, one of the pieces of feedback we got was, guys, I don't think he's retiring today. He's been interviewing coaches for openings and convincing T-Rob to stay in Tuscaloosa. So, this had all started before Nick Saban was even there. And I think if for Travaris Robinson, you don't know how you're going to fit with Kalen DeBoer. You don't know if you're going to be defensive coordinator, if you're still going to be a position coach. He's not going to be defensive coordinator in Athens. But I do think that's probably a staff and a group of coaches he knows and he could be more comfortable with than what he doesn't know. So it's maybe taking Lance, the known versus the unknown. The known would be Kirby Smart and a lot of those Glenn Schumann and Will Muschamp and those coaches you'd be working with in Athens, while the unknown, obviously, would be Kalen DeBoer's staff. And what are you even getting there?
Yeah, and I think for T-Rob, it's a great opportunity. Now you're co-defense coordinator. The interesting thing is we kind of threw out Glenn Schumann as maybe a dark horse name, and Schumann goes from being a dark horse to get this job to now he's a co-defensive coordinator in Georgia.
Yeah, that's crazy. Only a co-defensive coordinator. Brownie, we'll let you guys go, and then whenever y'all get set up, we'll bring back that shot full, Lunsford, and so we can just watch and wait for him to get to the podium while Brown and I sit here and, LT and I sit here and lead us up to the top of the hour. Thank you, Ryan Brown, who's live with us, and Emily Grace McWhorter over in Tuscaloosa. So we're back here in the studios. Everything brought to you today by our friends at Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Again, Kalen DeBoer's news conference expected to start here at the top of the hour, and we will be carrying that live here, and then we'll be, doing what folks in the studio do, filling a little time, hopefully with some information that is important until he makes it down to the electronic media room after he's done in the north end zone to take some questions and answers from the folks there. So continuous coverage here brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. But to further our conversation about Travaris Robinson leaving, Kevin Steele has retired, but Kalen DeBoer is a guy that Brock Heward, who is a part of our Disrupt the Media family up here, told us yesterday he is very close-knit with his guys, his group of guys. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Brock said he called it the village. He said, if it was just DeBoer, I can understand Alabama fans maybe not being super excited. But when he brings the village with him and that entire staff and just how cohesive they've been for the last few years from Fresno State to Washington, he said, you got to be excited about that. And from what I heard is he told the team in his initial meeting, I'm bringing my guys. We're going to do this my way. Nobody will ever be able to replace Nick Saban, but we will win. And with Ryan Grubb, you're getting one of the best play callers in college football, along with Kalen DeBoer. They're always on the same page. I'm not really familiar with the rest of the staff, but Brock Heward knows football inside and outside, and he says, as far as a staff being on the same page, they are one of the best in college football.
Okay, Forrester is getting that camera set, and we will take a live look right now into the north end zone. And this is the scene as we are gathered and ready to watch the Kalen DeBoer news conference. We'll leave this up full as soon as we get it for you and wait all the way until DeBoer makes his way up to the podium. I would assume it would probably in the past go president, athletic director, and then Kalen DeBoer. Maybe we'll cut out the president and just go AD to Kalen DeBoer.
I vote for that. No offense, Stuart Bell, but we've been through a lot of these press conferences. I'd love to see what Byrne says, and then obviously Kalen DeBoer. DeBoer's not one of these demonstrative guys. He's not going to blow you away with a big personality. He's kind of a simpleton, and when I say that, I don't mean like a shot that you take at Lunsford in the back room.
Simple mind is what I use there, yes.
From Millbank, South Dakota, so northeastern South Dakota, and the town's about 3,500 people. You brought it up earlier this week. This is a guy that used to make sandwiches for his players when they were on a shoestring budget at Sioux Falls. This has got to be a surreal moment for him because this is he was already quoted as grew up watching Alabama football. I've got the utmost respect for a program like this. For him to be in this position, and he has busted it. I mean, he has earned his stripes getting to this point, but it's got to be a surreal moment.
As a head coach, he lost 3 games at Sioux Falls, 3 national championships, 3 games. His last national championships at the NAIA level came in 2009 when Nick Saban was winning the first of 6 in Tuscaloosa. Then he went to, he was offensive coordinator at Southern Illinois, Eastern Michigan, Fresno State, Indiana, where he met Michael Penix. They had a great year. Got Tom Allen a huge raise at Indiana. Then he went to Fresno State to become a head coach. At Fresno State, COVID year, they only played 6 games. They were 3-3. Full season next year, 9-3, and he gets the Washington job. And folks, if you remember the Washington job, Jimmy Lake had crashed it into the ocean out there. 4-8. And in 2 years, he was 11-2. Then he goes 12-0, wins the Pac-12 championship, wins a semifinal game, and was playing just a week ago Monday for the national championship. It is a long way from Sioux Falls for this guy, but now he's taking over one of the bigger programs in college football history.
Yeah, look, this is maybe the most difficult follow in the history of sports. And I think the one concern or the biggest concern for Alabama fans is the recruiting. And now when you get Travaris Robinson heading to Athens, that's another thing that Alabama fans are going to fear is this guy going to be able to recruit? The only thing I would say, and I'll bring this back up, composite recruiting rankings over his 2 years at Washington, it was in the 50s. I think it was like 54. And the guy played for a national championship. He's really active in the portal. If he does get talent that even closely resembles what Nick Saban was getting, watch out.
Okay, a couple of developing stories. Roydell Williams, even before the Saban retirement, had entered the portal. He is going to Florida State. That's where Roydell is going to end up. Isaiah Bond is on a visit to Texas this weekend. He is in the portal right now. Doesn't mean he can't come back. But it looks like he is likely going to play somewhere else. Jalen Milroe, walking in last night to the football building, told the reporters, including our Emily Grace McWhorter, "I'm staying," as he waved to the hundreds of fans outside the Mal Moore building. And then there's Will Rogers, the Mississippi State quarterback, who had already committed to Washington to play for Kalen DeBoer. Then he officially went into the portal last night. And there is some debate on if he's coming to Tuscaloosa or not.
Yeah, look, I can't, and I don't know why people like to throw rogue reports out there, but it was on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, earlier, about an hour and a half ago, that Will Rogers was coming to Tuscaloosa. Whether or not that is fact, who knows? I would think that Jalen Milroe is a competitor. I would think that he thinks it's still his job, but obviously Kalen DeBoer sees something in Will Rogers. I know Alabama fans probably shrug and roll eyes when they hear Will Rogers because he played his worst football against Alabama defenses. But now there's a report out there that Tommy Rees is going to Athens. I don't think you can really read into that. I don't know if there is a spot for Tommy Rees on this staff. But you can't blame Kirby for plucking as much as he can from this coaching staff, right?
That will be one of the things that Kalen DeBoer talks about today is his staff. And there's Greg Byrne, the athletic director, who said 72 hours before he finds the next coach. It took him 48 hours. There is Kalen DeBoer, and behind him is the president, Stuart Bell. Kalen's wife there. The kids are there as well. Greg Byrne's wife there in that group. Greg Byrne flew to Seattle, and then the plane was in the air, and they were back last night in Tuscaloosa, and the folks will make their way up there. It's been a meteoric rise for a one-time wide receiver there at Sioux Falls. Also played baseball. Knows how to hit the long ball, too. 33 touchdown catches as a wide receiver. He hit 10 home runs in baseball and actually played a little independent professional baseball league. How do you like this name? The Canton Crocodiles is who he played for. I'm
going to guarantee you that they are not indigenous to Canton, the Crocodiles. But yeah, I heard he hit 5'10" as a senior. I mean, this guy is, loves sports, great athlete, and this is going to be really interesting. Do you think we get a softball reference at all?
Well, his daughter is the number 11 recruit in the country who committed to Washington. It'll be interesting to see if she comes to play for Pat Murphy's team. There is really the man of the hour all week long, Nick Saban.
I'm a little surprised
that he's here.
Yeah. And look, I know he wants to show support. Hey, look, I endorse this guy. This guy is going to do it the right way. I am going to be around if anybody needs me to lean on. But I just thought maybe Saban would think, hey, I don't want to make this, anything about me at all.
Well, I will tell you this. It is a thin line to walk, right?
It is.
To say, yes, I want this to continue. I want to hand it off. But also, you don't want to overshadow the new guy.
Yeah,
right?
Here's the thing. However,
and
Nick Saban wants to do it.
Setting, right?
Yeah, Nick Saban, this is the right way. I didn't know how he would do it, but I will, whatever Nick Saban wants to do, he can do.
Here's Chris Stewart. He's the play-by-play voice of the University of Alabama. Nick Saban just got out of his seat and is moving around now. Miss Terry is there with the hugs to the family. Mrs. DeBoer got the last hug there, and then she sits down. Nick comes back, and Chris Stewart, with the goat in the seat, starts the news conference. Let's listen in.
It's not surprising that the DeBoers were given such an incredible greeting at the airport yesterday, and from Alabama fans all throughout the course of the morning as well. But we're so glad you're here, and we look forward to learning more about you very soon. At this time, it's my honor to introduce the president of the University of Alabama. Please welcome Dr. Stuart Bell.
Thank you, Chris, and good afternoon, everyone. Today is an exciting day for the University of Alabama community, our fans, certainly across this nation, and I think as I've learned, literally across the globe. The excitement. Today marks a new chapter in Crimson Tide football program, and I am filled with immense anticipation and enthusiasm for what lies ahead. I want to express my gratitude to each person in this room who has played a vital role in supporting our university and the Alabama football program. Your guidance, your dedication to the university and our programs continues to be instrumental in the success that we enjoy year over year. First, a special acknowledgement is due to Coach Saban and Miss Terry, whose influence on our student athletes have just been outstanding. Immeasurable contributions, and also to our university community, but also Tuscaloosa and West Alabama is just truly unparalleled. Your legacy will forever be interwoven with the fabric of the university, and we're profoundly thankful for enduring impact on our student athletes who are in West Alabama, but again, truly all over the world. Thank you, Coach, for all that you've done. Also want to, I also want to express my appreciation to Athletic Director Greg Byrne, whose leadership and hard work, and I don't think hard work really captures the last few days, but he has been instrumental in identifying the right person, the perfect person to lead our football program forward, to develop our student athletes, and to represent our university. Greg, thank you for all you've done. Much gratitude as well to all of our UA Board of Trustees, many who are with us here today. Thank you for your leadership, for your guidance. Pro Tem Scott Phelps, also special thanks to our athletic chair, Mike Brock, over the last couple of days has also spent a lot of time in working with the Chancellor, Finest St. John, and to everyone's ongoing leadership, guidance, and support throughout this process. Thank you for that. So as we embark on this next exciting chapter, I am truly thrilled for the future of the Crimson Tide. Our elite student athletes continue to represent our university with distinction and demonstrate excellence both academically as well as on the field. Their success remains a pride point and a hallmark for this university. Without further delay, I'll now turn it over to Greg Byrne, who will officially introduce our new head coach, share more details about the transformative moment that we're at for Crimson Tide football. Roll Tide, Greg.
Thank you, Dr. Bell. This is an exciting day for the University of Alabama as we welcome Kalen DeBoer as our 28th head football coach. Thank you to Dr. Bell, Chancellor St. John, Athletic Chair Mike Brock, our Board of Trustees for your leadership and support at all times, and especially during the last few days. Appreciate Coach Saban and Miss Terry so much for being here today, and we look forward to celebrating them and their incredible accomplishments in the future. When I met with the team the other day after Coach announced his retirement, I asked them to give us 72 hours to help find our next head coach. I received a text from a friend shortly thereafter that said, every coaching search day feels like the equivalent of 7 days. When you're in the middle of it, there's some truth to that. Even with that, we were able to hire Coach DeBoer in 49 hours. Regina and I want to thank her for all of her support during this. We had a great conversation with Coach DeBoer and Nicole in Seattle just 2 days ago. And from there, I knew he was the right choice for the Crimson Tide. Simply put, Coach DeBoer is a winner. In his 9 seasons as a head coach, he's 104-12. He went 25-3 in his 2 seasons at Washington after taking over a challenging situation. As we know and watched, he just led the Huskies to the 2024 college football playoff national championship game. Washington won the 2023 Pac-12 championship. They recorded the most wins in a season in Washington program history with 14 last year. He won 6 of the 8 National Coach of the Year awards in 2023 and is back-to-back Pac-12 Coach of the Year award winner. In his last 2 years, his teams went 10-1 against ranked opponents. The list goes on and on. He's a ball coach. Impressive as those accolades are, what stands out equally as much are his relationships off the field and the way he cares about his players. One of the many things I felt responsibility for in this search was to make sure we had someone who cared for our kids just as much as Coach and Ms. Terry did. And at the end of the day, when we're hiring a coach, I ask a simple question because I got to keep it pretty simple for myself. Is this someone I would want my son to play for? The answer for Coach DeBoer is absolutely. We're thrilled to welcome Kalen, his wife Nicole, his daughters Alexis and Avery, here today as we introduce the next head football coach of the University of Alabama, Kalen DeBoer.
A historic moment here in Tuscaloosa as DeBoer makes his way up to the podium, shaking hands. Again, Nick Saban there in the front row. You see him in the crimson jacket. Our coverage brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
You can't ignore the elephant.
This is exciting. This is really exciting for myself and my family. As they were introduced, I first of all, I got a lot of thank yous and people I want to show some appreciation to. But Nicole, Alexis, Avery, this journey that we're on called life, right? It's special. And, special days like this are the ones that we're never going to forget. And I can't thank them enough for their support, their love. They're the ones that allow me to each and every day leave the house, go to work, and give everything I have to our players, our staff, to help us be the best we can be. So I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And thank you. Thank you. I want to thank Greg. I know this is happening fast, and I just can't say enough about the trust that you have in me and how much I appreciate that. It means so much. We had never met, and to do your due diligence and all of that and go through the process. I really appreciate it. And I'm so excited to lock arms with you as I am the rest of the athletic department, all the head coaches here, and continue to build on the great tradition of Alabama athletics as a whole. So many championships, so many great coaches I cannot wait to meet. We're going to continue to strive to make this thing better all together. President Bell and Chancellor St. John, appreciate you guys as well, and looking forward to building this university together. And it's special, and thanks for this opportunity. I could go on and on about the next person I need to thank, show appreciation to, love, and you all know who that is, and Coach Saban. We just talked for the first time yesterday. And I've been his ear a couple times already here. And, man, I can just feel in his voice. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen it for many years. This place is special. It's special to him, but it's special to all of you because he's what he's built it up to be. It's not just about the championships. I met with the team last night and heard from them and heard why they came here. Okay, a lot of great reasons, all tied to the Alabama brand, the education, playing here, each and every Saturday, and the support that they get. But obviously there was a major piece of that where they came here because Coach Saban and Miss Terry, poured everything into them, and they just saw the vision and wanted to be a part of it. And it's a privilege to be chosen to be in this role. It's one I don't take lightly. And I know that Coach Saban's been working hard to make sure that this program is in a great spot for the next person to take over. I think he hasn't told me this, but I think there's an intentionality that's been in place. You kind of figure out I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think you kind of know at some point, you don't know when that point is, but you want to make sure it's in a great place. And as you can see, just from this past season, it's in a great place. And being in a room last night where, you know, I saw a team that has stuck together. Greg talked about 72 hours. Okay. I want you to put yourself in those guys' shoes. Okay. The legendary coach, okay, that they came to play for. All right. And now what's next? And I can't tell you how much I appreciate them already. And I've had multiple meetings last night, today with them, individually, leadership groups. I know how badly they want to continue the tradition, how they want to do it the right way. And them just getting to know me here in just a few hours, it's been a blast. And I can't wait for the journey that lies ahead. But Coach Saban, thank you for all you've done, for laying the foundation for myself and the rest of this staff that we'll hire and these players to continue to build on everything you've done here. So thank you. He's the best in the business to ever do it. I'm just going to make sure that's all known, that that's how I feel. And 100% access, okay, to everything. I would be a fool if that wasn't the case. I would be a fool. And I'm going to ask him that he shows up and make sure he gives me at least one thing every day. I'm sure he's going to have 10. I'm going to be good with that. But at least one thing that he sees that we can get better at. And so I also think it's so important to understand that most programs don't just have, they don't even have one legend, right? That's in their program or come through the years. And we have probably more than two if you really want to talk about it, but Coach Bryant, right? And when I talked to Coach Saban yesterday, he spoke of that. And, you know, that just right there told me just how humble he is and how grateful he has been to follow in someone else's shoes and continue to build on what we have here at Alabama. You know, I have so many mentors that have helped me get to this spot. I'm not going to get into it, but every player or every coach that I've sat in a film room with, a staff room, when I was an assistant, when I've been a head coach, the head coaches I've worked for, they hold such a strong spot in my heart because they've all helped me get to the place where I'm at today. And I'll get into the players and what I want to see out of them and how we want them to grow while they're here at Alabama. But I also want to make sure that the coaches that I continue to have the privilege to work with each and every day, each and every year, that they understand the commitment I have to them to help them meet their aspirations and goals. Many of them want to be coordinators, many of them want to be head coaches, and I'm looking forward to that journey for them. When I think about different words, and I'll have a few here that I'll bring to you. One of them's embrace. And I think you get the sense that embracing the tradition and embracing the athletic department is something that's very special to me. I also want you to know that you as a community, everyone here, I can't wait for my family and I to embrace you and, you know, feel that same thing back to us. I know that that will be the case. I don't have to look much past last night when we flew in and the welcome and the reception that was there. It was so awesome. It was not overwhelming, but it was very close to it. And I appreciate that. I think, want to make sure our alumni know that I'll embrace them and that this will always be their place. This will always be their home. I know that so many have gone through and played for Coach Saban, and that should not change as far as how they feel about this place. And we need you. And, you know, the investment hours that have been put in by me compared to what has made this place what it is, for me, it's very little. And I want to learn the stories. I want to learn all the great moments. I know many of them. I've watched from afar, but I know there's so many behind the scenes and things that are just important to the tradition and the alumni, and can't wait to have you here and hear all your great stories along the way. But, you know, I just want to reiterate my excitement. And, you know, people ask, I've already asked, like, why would you go to Alabama? Why? Well, I think there's a lot of really obvious answers, right? And I've touched on that. When it comes to tradition and the history of the program, it's second to none. Okay. And when I look at places that I want to be, it's about winning championships. And that's an expectation that I cannot wait and accept as a privilege to try to uphold, winning SEC championships, winning national championships. That's an expectation and a love and an interest that I've always had and a passion that I'll have, and looking forward to carry on with our players, our staff, and all of you here as we go through these years ahead. The resources, the facilities, everything that can be here to support our players, our staff. That's my role as a head coach, is to provide that atmosphere, that environment. And when you have resources like we have here at Alabama, it makes my job easier. Okay. And looking forward to utilizing and showing off these resources to those that want to be wearing the crimson. A belief of mine when it comes to just athletics is that it brings people together. Again, last night, right? People coming together, and in a much bigger fashion in this beautiful stadium here behind you, bringing people together, bringing a community together. I'm learning about the enrollment of the university and how it's grown, and that's, I know, a credit to what the football program has done, but also to everyone else, buying into the philosophical beliefs of this great university. But when it comes to bringing people together, that is a passion of mine. There's something special about, being a head coach and the investment that goes into trying to make all the different pieces fit, having the right people in those places. And these facilities are awesome, but it's the people that make the place special. It truly is. And I felt that, and I've heard that from Greg as we talk, that you here, you all, you have made this special. And it's not just about these beautiful resources, these beautiful facilities. So I'm looking forward to getting to know each and every one of you. I think alignment is important. So when we're talking about, why Alabama, alignment from president on through to Greg, to the head coach and on down, I just think that the alignment and, just everything that we're all trying to accomplish together and locking arms and fighting the same fight that we all want, and knowing that our passions are all the same, that alignment is critical. And the programs and universities and all the different sport teams that have success, there's usually some sort of alignment. And we certainly have that here on a very strong level at Alabama. I'm 100% convinced of that. When it comes to our goals, I shared with you, it's to win the SEC and a national championship. But how are we going to do that? We're going to do that with class. We're going to do it with integrity, okay, with academic excellence. And that is my job, to make sure we uphold the standard that has been set here at Alabama and continue to build on that. When it's about winning, it's also about a culture. And I will share with our guys that as we already have here a culture that is contagious, and you'll hear me say that many times, I cannot wait to add to that, continue to make it to where you can feel through the TV screen when someone's watching a game how hard our guys play and how much they love each other and care for each other and how badly they want to win for all of you. And, the culture will be contagious, and more people, just as it's been, will want to continue to be a part of this. And the last piece, when it comes to developing players athletically, academically, socially, and even spiritually, okay, and that being our focus as a staff, we, in the end, want to make sure that we're building better men. We want to build better men because someday, okay, football will be over. Okay, someday real life will hit you in the face. And building better men, and this time that we're going through, this phase in their life, it is one of the most influential that they will have. And it is a privilege, it is an honor to be someone in a position that can have that influence. And I don't take that lightly, and I will surround myself with a staff that will be great husbands, great fathers, great people, provide a template for our great players that come through here to understand what it looks like to be a man. And that's an awesome goal. Our staff will have a lot of attributes and qualities, and that will definitely be one of them. And so, developing athletically, academically, socially, and spiritually. What's next? As we build our team, last night, just got to hear from some guys. Wasn't a lot of questions, especially as a whole team, but you break off into little segments and then they start talking. And that's what I want to hear. I want to hear what makes this place special. I want to hear about the traditions that I'm unaware of. I want to hear about all the things that really matter to them and ingrain myself into what's been special about Alabama football. But it all starts with the relationships and communication, which builds the trust that we must have to step on the football field with great chemistry, as you've seen years upon years upon years. Okay. It isn't just about talent. Talent gets you a long ways, but the championship teams have something special. They have that it factor. And the relationships that we will build will help us have an accountability for each other. Okay. Accountability to ourselves, accountability from coach to coach, coach to player, player to player, player to coach. We'll also form a brotherhood that is so tight, okay, that anything that comes our way will not break us. And we'll be tough. We call these our 3 non-negotiables that we will stand by. And the toughness piece is not just physical, okay, which is what Alabama football prides itself on. It will also be mental toughness, understanding how to handle adversity, because we understand the challenge that it takes to win a national championship. We understand that it's not easy. It never is, but anything worth anything at all is hard. And we're looking forward to that journey and to those challenges. When it comes to a style of football, I don't know what you've seen about how we've played, but obviously playing hard is a big piece of it. But what we try to do, it's always going to be around our personnel. It's always, yes, we're going to recruit the best, the highest character guys, but we're going to be able to have concepts and systems that are able to be adjusted to what we have and what our strengths are. As much as we have great players at every position, there are some positions that are stronger than others from year to year. And we will be explosive. I can promise you that. We will be aggressive. We will attack. And, we understand that the game was meant to be played one way still, and that's to be physical and dominate in the line of scrimmage and control it from both sides of the ball will always be a staple of our program. And as we go through utilizing our personnel and having a dominant offense and defense along with fundamental special teams, I hope you guys enjoy coming to games and seeing how we play and enjoying, wanting to come in and cheer on and understand the guys that are wearing those helmets. They have a lot of talent, but they're really special people and pouring everything they can into it. When it comes to recruiting, and I can go on and on about how we will recruit, I understand it's the lifeblood of our program, and we can have great coaches, but the guys on the field are the ones that make the plays. And a relentless attitude, starting with first and foremost myself, and then leading to our staff. It's what it's going to take to be the best of the best here with tough competition here in the SEC and to win a national championship. I'm looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and going to work. And I want to say one more thing because this is something that's very important to me, and I wanted to say it last because I knew I might get emotional. I'm not sure, but I need to thank some people, okay, back at Washington. And it's a special place to me. It really is. And this was one of the few places, maybe the only place that I would have ever left to come coach at. Because I understand what Alabama football is all about. And those guys that I sat in front of a room yesterday, I know what they're going through because I saw the same thing less than 24 hours ago. And I just want to tell everyone, because I know they're watching. I just want to tell you guys I love you. I will miss you. And, I want nothing but the best for everyone back there. And the journey of the last 2 years have been special. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the new journey that lies ahead. I'm looking for those new challenges here. Cannot wait, like I said, to roll up my sleeves with all of you, with our team, okay, and go to battle each and every day, each and every week, each and every year. So thank you, and roll tide.
Kalen DeBoer getting the jersey now. LT, you may know. Is that his jersey? What jersey number is it when they hold it up there?
It looks like a 28.
Was that his number at Sioux Falls, I wonder? No, it's 28th coach in Alabama history. That's what it is.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, 28th coach in Alabama history. A photo opportunity. I don't think there's going to be a Q&A in this portion.
No, I think they're going to take that
let's listen
downstairs.
to Chris Stewart and see what Chris is saying now.
Tight end coach. Great job. Fantastic. At this time, would like to ask the media that will be attending the breakout question and answer sessions. If you would make your way to the west elevators to my right, your left. Print media will be in the recruiting room. Cameras will be in the media room. So again, if the print media would head.
All right, so there is the end of our feed there. If you can just check on the other feed from there and see if we can keep that. But a really impressive news conference. We're going to stay here now. Don't go anywhere. As soon as our camera's fired up in the other room, and at some point, Kalen DeBoer will go to the media room and answer Q&A, questions and answers from the gathered electronic media. But on one side will be print media. On the other side will be electronic media. I believe they will send DeBoer to the print media first and Greg Byrne, the athletic director, to the electronic media. Then they'll swap rooms. We'll be carrying everything in the electronic media area for you. But initially, while we wait for the next video opportunity, just first reaction to Kalen DeBoer. Heck of a job of handling a very emotional news conference.
Man, I will tell you, and he basically went through almost everything that I wanted to hear. Like, I thought it would be impossible for him to get to everything, and I kept waiting to see how he was going to kind of give the gratitude to his former program and players, and he saved that for last. But that's one of the best opening press conferences I've ever seen.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, for Nick Saban to be sitting on the front row.
That's what made it a little tougher.
Staring down the barrel.
Yeah, from the University of Alabama here, this is RollTide.com, Alabama, where you hear the room there and people are moving around and a chance to shake some hands with Kalen DeBoer. He's posing for pictures up front. You're asking, okay, who are these people? These people are some of the board of trustees, some of the faculty, friends of the program. And now we lose that feed there, too, as they're going to close that room there a little bit. And I don't think he's going to address those folks yet. He may say some words to them because also in that room is a lot of NIL money. And he's leaving a program that Brock Heward told us yesterday has a lot of NIL money, but they never figured a way to tap into that. They are working very hard to tap into every penny here in the SEC at every program. It's a dog-eat-dog world in the SEC, and Alabama's NIL becomes more important now than ever because, as you heard Kalen said, a lot of the players in the team meeting last night came to Alabama to play for Nick Saban.
You know, I got confirmation on this because I heard it earlier, and I didn't know if I believed it, so I reached out to our friend Aaron Suttles, who's doing a great job with the Collective VA Alabama. And he confirmed it. After Kalen DeBoer was named head coach, over 500 new members of that collective.
Yep.
And so the Alabama fans, I would assume, and I'm just throwing a rough number out there, 75% watching the press conference had probably never heard Kalen DeBoer utter a word. And if you're an Alabama fan and you were a little unsure of how comfortable and how commanding he is, you got to be impressed with that press conference. And talking about athletically, they're going to grow. Academically, they're going to grow. Socially, spiritually, we're going to make better men. And I don't know what he left unsaid, but that was about as good as you could frame everything.
You know what is crazy to me is the emotion, and this would win me over if I was a player in the Alabama room or watching anywhere. The emotions really came when he was saying goodbye to his Washington players.
Yeah, we had a human side from him. And he did a great job of controlling that. I think you and I both would have probably lost it at that moment. And he said, kind of set it up. I don't know. I'm going to try not to lose it here. And he did. And he did a great job with it. And, I know it's a sad moment for Washington football because they seem like they had their guy. And I do believe, I didn't know what, you never know what fuels a guy. And for Kalen DeBoer, it's winning championships. He got a taste of it at Sioux Falls. He almost got, where he did win a Pac-12 championship, but almost got a taste of it Monday night. And that's what he wants to do. And he said it plural. championships, SEC championships, national championships.
Yeah, and keep in mind, at Washington, and I know recruiting is a concern, at Washington with the players he had recruited, they played for the national championship game the other night. Our coverage continues, and we're not going anywhere. Once he makes it into the electronic media room, either he or Greg Byrne, we will carry that live for you as well, and we go nonstop commercial-free here thanks to our friends at Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. 100% access for Nick Saban. And Nick Saban now has retired, and since his retirement, he came to work on Thursday, he came to work on Friday, and he's at this news conference on Saturday. It's the busiest retirement I've seen so far from anyone. Usually you go to the beach somewhere. He's been at work every day since he retired.
Like, you wouldn't be able to find me. I had a friend that went to Mexico for Christmas, and he turned his phone off for the entire trip. Yeah. Like, that's what I would have been if I was Saban. I guess, he is truly, hey, look. And he brought this out, and, you never know how an ego is going to, like, it's my program. And I think Kalen DeBoer is obviously saying the right things. I would be a fool not to lean on this guy. I've already been in his ear multiple times today. I want one thing a day from him on how our program can get better. I'm sure he's going to bring more, but you got to love that if you're an Alabama fan. You can't deny the best to ever do it, and if you've got access to that guy and you want to maintain, you're never going to be able to exceed what Nick Saban has been able to do. But if you can just come close to maintaining, then you're an A+. And I think that's what he's all about.
Yeah, it is a emotional time for Alabama fans who have been watching Nick Saban for 17 years, me included, as I had a chance to do the Saban show. And, you sit there, and I was going through pictures this morning, and it's just been a great 17 years. And then you think to yourself, oh, okay, they just hired a coach who is 25-3 the last 2 years at a Power 5 program. He's not being hired from a G5. He wasn't 25-3 as a coordinator coming into his first job. 25-3 at Washington, and he's only lost 12 games as a head coach. Can he handle losing? I mean, he doesn't lose a lot, does he?
Doesn't lose a lot, and I would think that, again, Las Vegas will probably set that total at 9.5 or 10 total wins with that brutal schedule next year. But could he match his loss total in the 2 years at Washington and 1 year at Alabama? For Alabama fans, it probably would be, end of times if they were to go 9-3 in the regular season. I still think 9-3 might be able to get a team in this 12-team playoff. But the Vegas odds were Alabama 6-1 to win the national championship. Nick Saban announces his retirement. It goes to 8-1. I wonder if Las Vegas, after watching that press conference, it went back down to 6-1. Because I really believe if you keep the majority of this roster intact, X's and O's wise, you're not going to lose anything. And he said for Alabama fans that are really concerned with the recruiting, we're going to be relentless. Now, we'll see how that works out. And I think it is going to be a different challenge. But Brock Heward, who knows the program well, said, now with NIL, it's about nationally recruiting.
Let's get to Kalen DeBoer now, who has walked into the electronic media room. Let's listen in.
Understand that this is going to be an awesome journey, and can't wait to roll up the sleeves and get this staff together, and we'll work on doing that as quickly and swiftly as possible. But looking forward to each and every day, all the challenges and the exciting things that are going to come our way.
Okay, I'm going to start with a question, Todd. We'll start with Ryan right here.
Hey, doing, Coach. Welcome to Tuscaloosa. Ryan Hennessy, NBC 13 in Birmingham. A lot of people throughout the years, there's been talk, who's going to replace Nick Saban? Why do you feel you're the guy? And how do you, I don't even know if the word replace is a word that you could use, but how do you fill those shoes after Nick Saban?
Yeah, you just said two things that I think are impossible, right? Filling his shoes. I mean, it is impossible. And I say that humbly. But I'm going to say this, I believe in what I can do as far as continue to take places that are in a good spot and building on what is already here. I think there's a piece where you have to have a confidence in yourself because there will be things that are second guessed when there's so much continuity that's happened for so many years at such a high level. It's awesome, right? But who doesn't want to be a part of, if you're truly a competitor, part of that ultimate top end goal of being at the top, being the best. And so,
I don't expect to fill Coach Saban's shoes exactly how he, did it. But I know that there's an expectation, and I know it can help our program together reach the same goals that have been set forth with championships, doing it in a way that's done with class, done with integrity, as we build better men.
Go right here, there.
Hi, Coach. Welcome to Tuscaloosa. Ariel Schaefer, CBS 42 News. It's been one heck of a week for you, I would say. Monday, national championship game, now to here. Moving forward, though, in a perfect world, what does your next 90 days look like, especially when you're talking to players, but even building a staff?
Yeah, it has been emotional. Today, I can even tell you what day. It's Saturday, okay? I'll be honest, I didn't know what day it was. Wednesday, 2 days after the national championship, I shared with the team last night that I woke up that morning and I probably felt a lot like they did a couple weeks ago. An ache in your heart, just that pain, and just knowing that you've come so close, and decided you got to pick yourself up, and if you want to truly be a champion, you got to go sometimes through these hard moments because it's what's going to make you better. Less than 24 or about 24 hours later, all of a sudden, there's a new challenge and a different type of excitement, that seemed to be brewing. And it has been emotional because now I'm at a different place with different people. And I went from literally meeting with one group of players who are also in an emotional place, whether it be because they lost in a national championship or what just happened with me coming here, and wondering with the staff what's going to happen and the program there at UW. But it's part of life, and I think it's our response. And I challenge those guys just like I'm going to challenge our guys here to just stay the course and keep the faith. And that's what I've lived my life by, is just understanding that whatever comes your way, good, bad, just continue to focus on the moment, be in the present, do everything you can that day to be the best you can be, lead yourself, bring others with you. And, whenever you're surrounded by great people, whenever you're surrounded by great people, more than likely good things are going to happen. As far as the next 90 days, I think even just more specifically, the next couple days, it's putting a staff around these guys because they do want to know. And there's some pieces. I always am a believer that you build around your coordinators. I sat as an assistant coach in a meeting room too many hours to not truly understand that a coordinator needs to have his people as best as possible. There's some people I'm going to bring up, but I want that stamp of approval from the coordinator that this is a group that they can thrive working with. And so we'll be doing that quickly because our guys want to know, and every hour that goes by is somewhat agonizing to them. And so we'll work on that, getting a staff in place. I'm not saying we'll have every position in place, but we'll have a pretty good start on it. And I will continue to meet with the players and build the relationships. There's a lot of recruiting that goes on, but first and foremost, the recruiting needs to happen within this team and getting them to buy in. And in the world today and how easy it is to jump from one place to another, I'll just be frank with you. This is a time when people try to take advantage of that. And that's the competitive world we live in. And I understand that. And so recruiting our own roster is first and foremost. And then the recruitment of, those that, have the interest, maybe are committed, maybe haven't signed, kind of just touching base with all of them and making sure, I understand and have a good understanding of what that is all out there. I understand spring ball's down the road, and organization, I think, is one of my greatest strengths. And we'll have a day-to-day organization that's 12 months out in every area to support our guys.
Coach, Emily Grace McWhorter from the Next Round. We are so excited that you're here in Alabama. As you stand inside Bryant Denny, what would you say to your 18 to 20-year-old self playing wide receiver at Sioux Falls?
Yeah, he would have never thought anything like this was ever possible. And, I think that's what I love about my journey is that it was never about getting to a place like Alabama. It's always been about enjoying the moment and just loving football, loving the pureness of the game, loving being a teammate. And so if I went back to those days, it would have never been in my mind. I mean, coaching, I think, is something I knew I wanted to do. And I loved high school coaching. I did it for 2 years. I thought I saw myself doing that forever. I got sucked into the college football world, and here we are. But it's just special. It means a lot that people entrust me with the players, their lives. Like Greg said it, I hope that parents are seeing myself and this staff as people who they want their sons to play for. Because that's the way I look at it. If you saw, my daughter's 18 and going to be going to college next year. And I think when you have kids of your own, you have a perspective that is kind of focused on all of that. And I can't wait to provide an environment where these guys are having one of the greatest times of their lives.
Hello, Coach. Pat Duggins, Alabama Public Radio and NPR. Welcome to Tuscaloosa. Everybody in the room here knows that it took Coach Saban a couple of seasons to come up to speed before he started, winning championships and such. I've spoken to students, and these are young people, mind you, who say they're going to give you 3 games.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that pressure and dealing with it?
I got 3. Okay, I was making sure I had that many. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I'm going to ask our guys to bring their best energy, attitude, and effort. I'm going to ask my staff to bring their best energy, attitude, and effort. I'm going to ask myself, and I hope that's what they ask of me, and that's all they're asking me. We bring the best energy, attitude, and effort. We got to work. We got to be smart. We got to have very skilled people, whether it's players, whether it's staff. We got to have people that are relentless. We got to have people that are driven. Driven is deeper than being motivated. Something that's deep within. I understand that there's a piece to, and I'm all about winning. I'm never going to shy away from it. One of our main slogans, we call it Maxim, is winners win because that's what winners do. And we're not going to shy away from winning and the importance of that, but we're going to focus on the process. We're going to focus on those things. And when we have the foundation that we have and we have the right people, we understand there's going to be tough times. There was tough times this last year, and we got through it. They got through it because they focused on not winning, but focused on the process. I believe that. I know how Coach Saban is, and I've already heard from the players on how they regrouped. Asked them some questions specifically about that, and so all my experiences, I think, lend to being able to handle. I was in a program, and when you're at a small college, it's not seen by as many people, and there's not as many voices. But I will tell you this: that your desire to win and the amount of effort you put into trying to win a championship, it's not any different. Because if you're focused on having this experience for the kids and them hosting a trophy, you pour everything into it, and it just hurts just as bad if you fall short. And so, we'll pour everything into these guys, and we'll focus on the process. We'll have a foundation of understanding how we're going to respond to adversity when it comes, because we understand that that's part of it as well.
2 more, right around.
Coach Ryan Brown from the Next Round. You mentioned upstairs that this is one of, if not the only job you would have left Washington for. To the best of your memory, can you recount the moment you were first told Alabama was interested in you following Nick Saban and your reaction to that?
Yeah, I think it was, the announcement and later that evening, and understand I didn't even get a chance to talk to Greg at that time yet, but just that there might be some interest. And it's not even the rumors and things that you hear and see. You hear about them quickly, right? Because everyone's paying attention to it. It gets to you in a lot of different ways. But, obviously the opportunity and planning to get the chance to meet on Thursday, I think was something that, I was really excited about. And, I think what I really always hope for in these situations is, yes, I mean, this is a spot I wanted to be, but I think most importantly, it's about making sure that my values are the same values that Alabama has, and the process and the things that I want are the same things that Alabama wants, and making sure that Greg and I jived in a way where we feel great about locking arms and taking on the fights together. And I saw that when I met with him. I feel extremely confident in how passionate he is about about Alabama. And and everything that happens here. And so I can't wait to go through this journey. I talk about journey a lot. It means a lot to me because I think that's what we're all on. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Coach. Last one right here, guys. I know there's more, but he's on a tight schedule today.
Coach, congrats right here. Nick Brooks with WTVY down in Dothan. Obviously, a lot of fans showing out at the airport yesterday. A lot of excitement. What do you have to say for some other fans who are still getting to know you and trying to get excited for you as the next head coach after 17 years with Coach Saban?
Yeah, I think be all in, right? I'm going to tell my guys that, not just I had a coach that I really learned a lot from. And when we were trying to build a program one time, he challenged his guys to, not like dip your toe in the water to see how cold it is, right? We either at a pool or whatever it might be. He's like, just jump all in. And that's what I need our players to do. But that's also what we need our fans to do. We need you all in. I can promise you that we'll have extremely competent people, coaching staff, off the field staff, all working together, very cohesive unit, bringing it all together. And that all together piece is, everyone here, the fan base working together and being all in and not just trying to test the waters and kind of trying to figure out if, they want to be a part of this or not.
All right, Coach. Thank you, guys. We'll have Coach.
Thank you. Yep.
Greg Byrne will be in here next, but hold tight, Coach. We'll go.
Yep.
All right. So Greg Byrne will be coming up in that room here momentarily. And if we need to hold into that shot, we can do that. Just to remind everyone, our coverage is brought to you commercial-free thanks to our friends at Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. So we've seen already as we take a look into the room where Byrne will walk up in a moment and answer some questions. That's the post-game media room. If you're not familiar with that, Lunsford, if we punch that back up, that's where Nick Saban has for 17 years come in and did his post-game news conferences just there up from the players' locker room and just down across the hall from the big recruiting room, which is about, as you imagine, the importance of recruiting, about 16 times the size of that room.
Yeah, and look, he brought this up. The recruiting starts with our own building, our own roster. And you got to love the fact that he's already met with the players, it seemed like 3 times as a team, and then he's meeting individuals right now. And you heard Josh Maxson say he's on a tight schedule. And I bet that's all about sitting back down with those players. I would assume there will be a conversation with Isaiah Bond at some point.
Still in the portal, hasn't committed anywhere, visiting Texas today.
And look, and in Texas is going to throw money his way. But if you're Bond, I think based on this guy's track record, you at least need to listen.
Roydell Williams committing to Florida State. He was a portal guy. That was before Saban. There's been a couple of DBs who haven't really seen playing time yet. But were highly recruited in the recruiting classes that Nick Saban put together that have put their name into the portal. And we will probably hear more names going into the portal because that is a place you can go and at that point be available to negotiate in this world of NIL.
Look, and it's impossible that you're not. It doesn't matter who the hire was going to be. You're going to lose some pieces off of this roster. But if he can maintain 90% plus of this roster, you got to be excited about that.
Okay, Greg Byrne is walking to the podium now, the athletic director at the University of Alabama. Let's head back out to Tuscaloosa in the electronic media room and hear from the Alabama athletic director as we get ready to hear how this whole process went. That's the old zoom in focus there. And let's listen in to Greg and see what he has to say.
That's about what it was. I think I've got 9 hours in the last 3 days. So I'm going to be ready for bed tonight.
Greg, Ryan Hennessy, WVTM 13 in Birmingham. I spoke to you a few years ago. I said, how do you replace Nick Saban? You said, I'm just going to kick that can down the road until I
remember.
Do it.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you had to do it. There's been so much talk the last 3 days. We've been refreshing Twitter, rumors. But you said, when I talk next, it's going to be the next head coach. Was this your first choice? And can you rewind the last 48 hours on what you did to get this next head coach?
Yeah. So anytime, I'll put it to you this way. I don't ever look at it as first choice, second choice, third choice. Okay. I really don't. God's honest truth. I look at it as you go through the process, you work on plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and that's not a rank order. Okay. When I sit down with somebody on one day and in my mind, I may feel like, hey, this one may make the most sense. As soon as you sit down with somebody, you have a feel very quickly. And what I'll tell you, as soon as I sat down with Coach DeBoer, And Nicole was there and his wife, and then Regina, when we sat down 2 days ago in a hotel room in Seattle, I was like, not that long into, I'm like, this could be our guy. And you want to make sure you do your due diligence and all those things. And that's what we did. And thrilled that we're standing here today with him as our new coach.
Ariel Schaefer, CBS 42 News in Birmingham. When you talk about setting a precedent, Coach Saban did set that. But for Coach DeBoer moving forward, what do you think his precedent is going to be like, and how is he going to continue the tradition and legacy of a program like this moving forward?
Yeah, I think that's why he's here today is because he was excited, honored to take on the task of a program with the tradition that it is. I'll tell you this story. As y'all know, I have ties out that way. And Mike Bellotti, who used to be the football coach at Oregon, took him to the Rose Bowl, coached at a really high level. He and his wife, Kalen, came to our Tennessee game, I think 3 years ago now, or 2 years ago now, where we were at home this year. So 2 years ago now. And so think about the level that he coached at, right? And they came to the game with Regina and I, and they got to see everything, and the upper decks, and just the environment, the Walk of Champions, and just the pageantry around this all. And he's like, "Holy cow, Greg!" And so the tagline for the SEC is "It just means more." Who doesn't want to have that opportunity? Who doesn't want to try to take on that challenge? Listen, I didn't grow up in Alabama, right? I didn't, but literally, from my youngest years, I remember watching Alabama, watching Coach Bryant come out of the tunnel, and when Keith Jackson and Coach Broyles would call the games, and that was often in San Diego, California, and then later on in Oregon. And I was like, what an awesome place! I didn't know I was going to be so fortunate to be here one day. But if you know anything about college athletics, if you know anything about college football, it's the pinnacle right here. And if you want a chance to be a part of going after and being a part of the really special things in our country, and one of the special things in our country, you want to be at Alabama. And I think Coach DeBoer and his family feel the same way.
Ryan Brown from the.
Hello, Ryan.
How are you, Greg?
Tired,
okay.
But I'm okay.
Yeah, we all are.
That's right.
Do you recall the first time Kalen DeBoer came on your radar screen, and what made him appealing to you?
Yeah. So one of the things I told this story next door. One of the things my dad taught me early on, because for those of you who don't know, my dad was an athletics director for 29 years, so I grew up around this. But I remember early on, because he knew I was interested in this, and I'd say, "Hey, Dad, tell me, give me advice on all sorts of different things." But one of the ones that stuck forever was watch coaches coach. Okay, so the story I tell, and it's actually a little bit tied to Coach DeBoer, is my first full-time job in athletics was a regional fundraiser at Oregon. And I would had all of Southern Oregon and all of California. Okay. And so I had a lot of windshield time, as you can imagine, driving around. But I'd get up to Eugene and I would go watch football practice whenever I could. Well, Mike Bellotti had just become the head coach, who I mentioned earlier. And he had in just a few years span, he had Jeff Tedford, who Coach DeBoer worked for at Fresno, who I think was here in 17, if I'm not mistaken. He had Chris Peterson, who became the Washington coach. He had Dirk Cutter, who became an NFL head coach. And I got to watch some really high-level coaches coach. And you learn how to watch body language. You learn how to watch their communication skills. How do they come across? Are they smart people, right? And so I watch a lot of coaches. That's one of the things I do. I literally sit in my office because I get there so early. I literally sit in my office some mornings before I work out, and I watch YouTube videos of coaches. I watch interviews that take place. So I don't know the first time I ever watched Coach DeBoer, but I would guess it was probably 3-4 years ago, something like that, where he was at Fresno. And you just I never wanted Coach Saban to retire. You mentioned Ryan, kick the can down as far down the road as you can. But it would have been irresponsible of me if we weren't working on being prepared when that day came, hoping it would never come. And so, I probably watch hundreds of hours of that every year.
Emily Grace McWhorter, also from the next round. When you look back on the last 48 hours or so, what will you remember most, do you think?
Well, what will I remember most? that's a good question. When you go through this, I'm in my 17th year of being an AD, so I've done this a few times. You're just, you think about as much, probably as much as anything, you think about the responsibility that you have, that so many people are counting on you to be a good leader and make good decisions and be thoughtful in the process. And I think first and foremost, I thought about the guys on our team. Okay. Next, I thought about our entire department and the impact that our football program has there. Next, I thought about our fan base. We got a couple of those, right? And the way they support our university and care and the passion that they have. If I didn't take their feelings into account, not that I was sitting there reading message boards, because I don't do that, and that wouldn't have been very productive on my part. But passion here is like none other. And so if you don't feel a responsibility to take the steps of what you're doing seriously, then shame on me. And so, that's when I get through each of the coaching searches I've been a part of. And if I'm hiring a tennis coach, right, the young men or the young women on that tennis team, they're counting on you. They're counting on you and their future and what they've done. And so you better take that seriously too. But I also understand there may be a few more cameras that show up when you announce the football coach than others.
Hey, Greg, Carl Prather, WAFF TV in Huntsville.
Hey, Carl.
When you're trying to find the right guy for this job, did you ever think, in your opinion, to try to continue the trajectory of what Alabama football could be as an organization moving forward down the line?
Yeah, I always remember we were upstairs in the zone my first year here, and Coach Saban spoke after one of our scrimmages and to the Red Elephant Clubs, I think, what it was. And somebody asked him, it was a really good question, kind of one I was going to ask him at some point that I hadn't to that point. But so this is 2017, right? And they asked and they said, how do you keep that same drive, that same just focus and ability to continue to try to get better every single day? And he said, I kind of look at it a little bit like a ladder, that I take a step and there's another step ahead of me, and then there's another step ahead of me after that. And so one of my, and I said this next year, one of my favorite sayings, and probably the only original quote I've ever had, but is, the only thing I got figured out is I don't have it all figured out. And so I try to grow every single day in the decision making and what I do, and I have a responsibility in my role to serve our university, serve our student athletes, and serve our fans. And if I ever stop taking that responsibility seriously, then shame on me, and somebody else needs to do this job. And so as you look at what's ahead and how do you grow the program, you got to, every day, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. You're not maintaining. And as you get older and get more gray hair, right, Gary? Yeah, Gary and I have that in common. Yeah. I knew he could handle it. Yeah. That's right. Exactly. You do get a little more wisdom with the gray hair. That's why Ryan doesn't have any gray hair, right? That's right. No, I'm just kidding, Ryan. And, but hey, you better get after it every single day and give great effort in what takes place. And if you do those things, more often than not, you're going to make better decisions. And you're not going to bat 1,000. Nobody does, right? They're not trying to hopefully be offensive here. If you have a faith in Christ, you believe there was one perfect human being, right? And so we have a responsibility to create a vision and do things to give us the best opportunity to succeed long term and continue to get better. Yes, sir.
Gary, gray hair.
Yeah. All right, here comes the zinger at me.
No, really. Coach DeBoer talked about, obviously the immediacy of putting a staff together.
Right.
He's got a staff there. There'll be other coaches that are interested. There's some great staff members here and support staff members. Will you and maybe even Coach Saban talk to Coach DeBoer about staff members here, or will he have to ask?
We already have. Yeah. You know what? Somebody was going to ask me the question next door. Why, for a long time, the media, and I don't blame you writing this or saying this, would say, well, who's going to want to replace him, right? And I've looked at it as, you better find somebody that doesn't see that as a negative, but sees that instead as a challenge, and what an opportunity. And almost immediately, both from Coach DeBoer and Nicole, I could sense a comfort level in who they are, and a humility in who they are, and also a confidence in who they are. That's what you're looking for, to have somebody to have that balance. Think of the impact that Miss Terry's made, right? That's, Nicole's not going to be Miss Terry. She shouldn't be. She needs to be Nicole DeBoer. And Coach DeBoer needs to be Coach DeBoer, not Coach Saban. And I sensed that right away, and sitting down and talking to him.
What about staff members?
Oh, so staff members, yeah, both of us have already talked with them about it.
Is there interest from your position to keep some of the here?
Yep. But at the same time, too, if I don't have the confidence in the head coach to manage their staff, and I got the wrong head coach, right? Yes, sir.
Hey, Greg. Jamal Kennedy at WCFA 12 News in Montgomery, Alabama. Coach DeBoer has coached, all over the place, from high school to NAIA to FCS and then eventually to FBS. What does his coaching journey tell you about the kind of person that he is?
Well, I first of all, I think he's committed to the game of football and has a passion and belief in it, which is what you want in a head coach. I also saw as a person that's willing to take on challenges, right? And have success in taking on those challenges. And so I see a person, a coach, a family that has embraced that journey, and where, when you say you get an opportunity to be the head football coach at the University of Alabama, and see that as what a unique and special opportunity that is. He very much is somebody that has, and then on top of that, just looking across his academics, his approach to recruiting. I had to be a little careful this time. One of the tricks I do is trying to call former players, and I had to not set off a bunch of alarms, right? But I still was able to get some feedback out there from people that had played for him and worked with him. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I got a text message from somebody inside the Washington Athletic Department yesterday who I've known for a long time. And she said, "I used to like you." And she said, "We're devastated inside this department because of and she said, but we're happy for him too, because what a good person he is within the walls of the entire University of Washington Athletic Department."
Nick Brooks with WTVY down in Dothan. Obviously a big week for you guys. You look at Coach DeBoer's resume. What sticks out to you the most of what he's done over the past 2 seasons, or whether it's been the past 20 years as a coach, and kind of why you made the hire? Yeah, you look, he took over a challenging situation at Washington. Most of the time you're not replacing somebody the caliber of Nick Saban, right? And so most of the time when a head job is open, there's challenge with it. And then look what he did in his 2 years there, right? And did it in this modern times, the transfer portal and everything else that we're dealing with as a reality right now. And then on top of that, you just look at his development of the guys that have played for him, and his teams continue to get better. And so there are a lot of parts when I sit down with a coach, and I tell this to young coaches who are saying, hey, when they come to me for advice and say, what are you looking for in interviews and such? So it's really not that complicated. If you want to be a head coach, you need to explain to me from A to Z, academics to zone defense, and everything in between. And you better, especially when you haven't been a head coach before, you better be able to explain to me how you're going to handle each of those areas in a very concise time. When we hired Dan Mullen at Mississippi State, I hired him at 2:30 in the morning at the Embassy Suites in Buckhead, right? We sat down at 9:30 that night. 5 hours later, I said, I think I want to hire you. I hadn't slept then either, slept a couple hours, and I think we made it official like 6 a.m. And but I could tell early on this guy had a plan that was laid out, and was very smart, and he had a lot of success over there, right? And then ended up going to Florida, and the year before he got let go, he was
in the SEC championship game, right? So, you know, and so you look that's I had somebody tell me this time, hey, why don't you just do it by Zoom? I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I learned so much. I learned so much by sitting down and talking to somebody and watching body language and watching facial expressions and, you know, tone of voice and all those different things. And you know, Zoom is certainly helpful in a lot of ways, but you can't make a decision like this by, you know, say, hey, we'll set up a Zoom. I'll talk to you in a couple hours, right? You got to get in front of people.
Hey, Greg, Johnny Condon, ABC 3340 Sports in Birmingham. With respect to the ever-changing landscape of college athletics with NIL and transfer portal, during the interview process, how integral was it that you had a guy that was going to embrace the current climate and, for lack of a better term, be willing to play ball? Yeah, well, Coach Saban had a great line that he said over the years that, you know, the dinosaurs didn't adapt, right? So you better not be a dinosaur. And whether you like something, you don't like something, you know, you need to face reality in what you do. And that was my approach, is like, you better have a coach that doesn't want to deny the realities of what we're dealing with. And that goes across the board in whatever you do. Okay. Appreciate y'all.
All right, that's Greg Byrne leaving the electronic media. So we've heard from Kalen DeBoer and Greg Byrne. We'll get back out there and check in with Brownie. And I don't think there's anyone else making it to the podium, but we will hear from them in a second. Impressive with Greg Byrne. And, you know, there will be naysayers who will say his point on having an A candidate, B candidate, C candidate, and a D candidate in no particular order. There was no first candidate. There will be those who will say, you know, I don't buy it. I believe you did this guy first or this guy first. That's Greg Byrne telling you how, at least he explains how he went through this process.
Well, look, and this is a game when you talk about agents, and we kind of threw this out when you're talking about all these Jimmy Sexton guys. Sexton gets a list. These are the guys I'm interested in, and he goes to the table, and it's a big negotiating. All these guys had leverage. Personally, and I said this initially after Nick Saban retired, I thought the best available candidate out there was Kalen DeBoer.
From day one.
From day one. And I'll just remind everybody, USC, Pete Carroll wasn't the first choice, wasn't the second, wasn't the third. He was the fourth guy. 3 guys turned that job down. And ultimately, USC got that right. And this is a guy that you look at the resume. I mean, there's not like a bad year on that resume. I mean, everything is outstanding.
Yeah, it is. One thing to keep in mind, you have Brandon Marcello, who makes a great point. After spending time with Kalen DeBoer at the playoffs, he asked him, he said, 116 games as a head coach, from Sioux Falls to Fresno to Washington, and you've had one defensive coordinator, Chuck Morrell. He's been with you 116 games. Could you ever imagine coaching without him? And he says, I haven't had to. I can't say that I have. He's just been there. I count on him. He's going to be there at 4:30 in the morning until the job is done, maybe even midnight or past. He's just relentless in his work ethic, and he's always going to make sure he's got the answers from the defensive side of things. This comes on a day where Travaris Robinson is now at Georgia as a co-defensive coordinator. And it comes on a day when you've seen a couple of young DBs who T-Rob recruited have hit the portal. Keeping this roster together, this initial roster together, will define next year. And then Kalen DeBoer's own journey will define the rest of the time at Alabama. But building the staff has become an urgent thing.
Well, look, he said, you know, being a former coordinator and a couple of things, you know, he went back to internally what he has done along his journey. And he said, first of all, my coordinators, I need them to have the guys under them. They need to have their stamp of approval on this. So he wants his coordinators, being a former offensive coordinator, really comfortable with their position coaches that are around him. He also said, and this was from Emily Grace McWhorter right here on the next round, when he was asked as an 18, 19-year-old playing for Sioux Falls, would he have ever imagined this? And he said, I enjoy the moment. And I think for the first time ever, and you might agree with this, that Nick Saban seemed to enjoy the moment with this team. So, he is an enjoy the moment guy. Organization, he said, is one of his strong suits, which I absolutely love. I think and I got a text from an Alabama fan. I was ready to jump off a cliff 2 days ago. I'm ready to run through a wall right now. I think Alabama fans, after seeing this, look, and it's got to translate to wins on the field and ultimately championships. But I don't think anything could have been said better today than the way Kalen DeBoer laid out his plan.
Yeah, 100%. Our coverage is continuing in Tuscaloosa. We'll go back out there in just a second and check in with Ryan and Emily Grace. Scott Forrester also in the field there. Jim Dunaway, Lance Taylor, Tyler, and John Lunsford here in our Next Round studios. Our coverage being brought to you commercial-free by our friends at Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. I will make a point to tell you the 28th coach is Kalen DeBoer. He was introduced earlier today, just straight up at the top of the hour. It was about 1:05 Central Time when he made it to the podium there. His wife, Nicole, their daughters, Alexis and Avery, were there too. If you're not familiar with Alexis, I guarantee you Pat Murphy is the Alabama softball coach. She was the number 11 recruit in the last recruiting cycle, committed to go to Washington, which is a great, softball program, but it ends up now, maybe she ends up hitting the portal herself and comes to Tuscaloosa to play in what annually is the most viewed softball program in the country. They lead the country in attendance every year. Ryan Brown is back with us. Not yet. Okay, we're working on getting Ryan
back to the softball thing. You heard Brandon Marcello, who was on with us yesterday. He said, one of the things that was important for Kalen DeBoer was being able to watch his daughter play softball at the University of Washington. And it was only 100 yards from his office to the softball complex. I would assume if they haven't met yet, today might be that day where they sit down with Coach Murphy.
Yeah, to do that. But the family was there today, and you think about Nick Saban, who was at the news conference, and you think about everything that Terry Saban did with the program. We've heard from so many players. We're blessed here on the Next Round to have NIL deals with players throughout the course of the year, and we heard from Terry Arnold and many over the years just how much Terry Saban meant to him, giving him books to read to help his journey. So you wait to see how Nicole puts her stamp on that as well. Ryan, give me a thumbs up if you've got me right now, buddy. Nope, not yet. Still working on the test there, getting his audio. No audio yet. Okay. We'll get back out to Ryan Brown in just a second. I will tell you this, that when you talk about a guy who said in his news conference that I was coaching high school football and I thought I was going to be there forever. I didn't think I was going to leave high school football. And then he was at Sioux Falls, his school, and then he's worked his way as a coordinator. As he said, the college game sucked him in, and now he's at the University of Alabama. Much like Nick Saban, he seems to live by the philosophy, I want to enjoy where my feet is. Nick Saban never really, seemed to look down the road too far. He always enjoyed today's meetings, today's practices, the next day. He never looked too far down the road. That seems to be a personality trait you get with Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, I mean, he said it's all about enjoying the moment. He never thought he would be in this situation because when he was at Sioux Falls, that trophy's just as important when you're putting it in. Those losses hurt just as bad as they hurt at this level.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So our coverage continuing. Legendary coach is how it was described of Nick Saban there. As Kalen DeBoer took over, he's not shying away from that opportunity to follow Nick Saban there. Roster retention becomes number one, and then, at the same time building a coaching staff so that you end up getting that opportunity to coach the players Nick Saban recruited. Now Ryan Brown is standing by in Tuscaloosa. Let's bring him back in for his thoughts. Ryan, what do you have for us?
Well, I mean, pretty interesting day here. You don't do this around here an awful lot. It's kind of been the joke is, you do this once every 17 years in Tuscaloosa. And I don't know about you guys. I did not obviously get to hear what you said after Kalen DeBoer both spoke upstairs and then here in the television room. By the way, he's pretty polished. He talks like a football coach. I mean, this is not a presidential campaign. He's still going to talk like a football coach. But he was a guy that I thought controlled himself very well. I had said that this is a hire you make because he's a really good football coach. It's not necessarily one that's going to win the press conference. And what I meant by that is you're not getting a big name that everybody in this part of the country was aware of, like a Lane Kiffin or someone like that. But I think winning the press conference is overrated. All of that said, I thought he handled himself very well in all of this.
All right, Brown, I thought it was one of the best opening press conferences I've seen, especially under the circumstances when you're coming in. And I didn't expect Nick Saban to be there, and I understand why he was. That was one of the questions asked, will he be there? And I was like, probably not, just because it might take away. But whatever decision Nick Saban made was probably the right decision. But having him 10 feet away from him and being able to really lay out everything, like he pretty much said almost everything, if I'm an Alabama fan, that I wanted to hear.
Yeah, I thought the interesting part with Saban, Lance, was when he said, I want him around. I want, one correction a day from my team, one thing he sees from my team. And, and I'm not suggesting at all by Kalen DeBoer that those are hollow words or that Nick Saban would even do that. But the silly thing would be to put as much distance between yourself and Nick Saban as you could. Why would you want to do that? As he said, it's in his mind, the greatest coach that has ever lived. And I think we all agree with that. So why would you not tap in to that brain if that brain is still willing to sit around and help you? And, we've talked a lot about this. There's the line you walk between being too overbearing, but still putting your stamp of approval in this program and helping when asked.
Okay, on this day, Travaris Robinson is at Georgia to be co-defensive coordinator, and you sort of get the feeling that the clock is ticking in that room. That's something Kalen talked about today as well.
Well, it is, and Greg Byrne was asked about it too. Gary Harris from WVUA here in Tuscaloosa asked Greg about that, the prospect of talking to people that are currently on this staff. And, to Greg's point, I want him to do that. I mean, you feel like Nick Saban has built a good coaching staff here, but also if you don't trust the guy you've just hired to pick a new coach, you've hired the wrong guy. So I think, when you look at that, there will be some talks, obviously, about whether or not any of these guys are retained by Kalen DeBoer, who it is, which coaches it will be. I think Travaris Robinson was a very interesting one. Again, that was something that had already started even before Nick Saban retired. Georgia had made that offer to him. But obviously, that guy is a very good coach. A lot of people think he was, if not heavily involved in calling the defensive signals, was actually calling them this year. And on top of that is an exceptional recruiter. And when it comes to Kalen DeBoer, I think that is the one question a lot of people ask about him is his ability to recruit in the Deep South. And you're probably going to want to have a coach or two that, I've called them mercenaries, so that you go hire a mercenary that knows how to recruit in the South and has the connections at the schools in the Deep South.
And Brown, he said recruiting begins in these walls with this roster. Yep. And I heard that the players last night left that initial meeting really fired up. I don't know if you've heard anything about that meeting. I said this to Dunaway. I bet 75% of the people tuning in, listening, this is probably the first words they've ever even heard Caleb DeBoer utter. So I know a lot of those players probably didn't know who he was.
Yeah, and I would agree with you, Lance. And I will tell you, I talked to someone here today that was actually in that meeting. And he told me that Kalen DeBoer was very, very impressive in that first meeting with the players. And he echoed what Kalen DeBoer eventually then said in his opening news conference upstairs, was that when it came a Q&A time, there weren't a ton of questions. Everybody was kind of guarded. But then when you broke off into the smaller groups, the questions started. And the feedback this person had gotten is the same thing you've heard, Lance, is that the players left there after they had a chance maybe to go into a little bit more of a one-on-one, more of an intimate situation with him. Very comfortable with what they heard from him. And I'm not going to suggest that's universal. I'm sure, I've been a little disconnected because we've been here. There may have been some guys that have already hit the portal here in the last couple of hours. And there are going to be some guys that do that. But I do think the guys that were in that meeting, from what I can gather, were comfortable with and Kalen DeBoer and impressed what they heard from him.
We're continuing our coverage here of the Kalen DeBoer introduction. One coordinator we were just talking about is the defensive coordinator, Chuck Morrell, who's been with Kalen DeBoer 116 games. Every game he's coached, from Sioux Falls to Seattle, Washington. So you would imagine he's going to be with them either as a defensive coordinator or as an analyst. Ryan Grubb now a candidate to take him at Washington. If not the head coach at Washington, I would bet Ryan Grubb comes along too.
Yeah, you would have to think so. I don't know why you would stay back at Washington. This was, again, a job that to some level he considered taking last year. Considered enough that he visited the campus here in Tuscaloosa. So I think he was very close to taking this job last year, and you would be in a even more comfortable situation doing it now. And I just go back, and I know you guys do too, to what Brock said yesterday. He discounted that very quickly, that Grubb would be the guy, would be the replacement. It makes a lot of sense, but he discounted it very quickly. But you heard Kalen DeBoer in his session here in the television room talk about how you build around the coordinators. You hire coordinators you trust first, then you build around them. Well, he could trust both those guys you just talked about. Ryan Grubb's been with him, and then the defensive coordinator's been with him an extended period of time every game he's coached. So once you find guys you're comfortable with, and if that's your philosophy is I'm going to find coordinators I'm comfortable with and then build around them, you would have to think Ryan Grubb would certainly be in that discussion.
The thing that was interesting to me, he said there are 3 non-negotiables for our players for this program. And I wonder what those are. Like, he didn't go into that. Basically, he sprayed the board and hit almost everything, but he brought that up, and I'd love to know his 3 non-negotiables.
I would have to assume one of them is effort, right? When any coach, that's got to be a non-negotiable is effort. You bring the effort every single day. I mean,
I would think
that would have to be one of them.
He taught about, I don't, motivated is great, but driven is better. You've got to be driven. And I do, and I think we'll probably sooner or later, hear about the 3 non-negotiables. I think mental toughness kind of tagged at the end of that, so that was probably one of them. But I'll tell you, man, the press conference really doesn't matter. You go back to Nick Sirianni and the disaster that was with the Philadelphia Eagles 3 years ago, and just last year he was in a Super Bowl, so you don't necessarily have to be completely polished. But I thought that was airtight. For an initial press conference with the pressure on him, I think Alabama fans are really excited.
Yeah, I did not hear him. So you'll understand what happened. He was upstairs in the first part we showed you, and then very quickly was here in the digital media room with us and the TV people and the radio people, and then left to go next door to the print room. So I haven't heard anything he said in there or seen anything he said in there. I'll be interested to see if anything comes out of that. So I've seen 2 of the 3, but the 2 of the 3 I've seen, I'm with you, Lance. I thought he handled himself very, very well. I thought it was a poignant moment at the end of the first session upstairs when he started talking about the people he left behind at Washington. He became very emotional to the point he had to stop for a moment and kind of gather his emotions. I thought that was kind of a nice moment. These guys get, these coaches, I've already called, a good recruiter a mercenary earlier, but even these head coaches they're at a place 2 years. I think it was at Fresno 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And at Washington 2 years. So, they get labeled as job jumpers when they do something like that. But you can see he had some deep emotional connections there at the University of Washington. And then what Greg Byrne said about the unnamed Washington staffer that said, I used to like you. So, you pair that with what you've heard from Brock, and I've talked to some people here at Alabama that have had some limited dealings with DeBoer already, and they were aware of the interview we did with Brock and Brandon Marcello, and both of the people I talked to are like, that's the only thing I've ever heard about him. They said, I saw what Brock said about him on your show, and the people I've talked to him have said the same, talked to about him have said the same thing about him and the type of person that they're dealing with.
On the heels of this coaching search, we know Mike Norvell got a raise up to $10 million, right? That was the number, 8-year, $10 million. No details yet, but it's been announced today. Steve Sarkisian has a 4-year extension onto his contract in Austin through 2030. Are you hearing any numbers yet on the DeBoer contract?
Not yet, and I would anticipate those come out pretty quickly. But, the reports were that Washington was willing to double that amount. And I think Brandon said just short of $9 million when Marcelo was on the show with us, right? So
yeah, I think he was making 4.5 this year. So obviously doubling would be an even 9 there. I would think it's between 9 and 10 million. I mean, that's kind of the going rate for an elite coach now.
I just think, Lance, there comes a point where if you're living in a certain neighborhood, you drive the same type of cars your neighbors drive, right? And if you want to be viewed as an elite program, maybe you don't have to pay a guy $500,000 more dollars. But I think these programs take great pride, and it's a selling point that their coaches are among the highest paid in the country. So that's where I anticipate it being.
I don't necessarily think it was about the money. I mean, look, money's great. Yeah. People that say it's not about the money, money does make things a lot better. But I think it's the fact, it's almost like you hear about a grizzly bear getting a taste of human meat. and that's all they want. He got a taste of championships, and he came so close to having one on the biggest stage Monday night, and he knows realistically, like, you can have lightning in a bottle maybe every 4 or 5 years at Washington, but year in, year out, if you do it the right way and you get the right personnel, you can win consistently. You can win championships. He didn't say singular, we're here to win a national championship. He said, we're here to win championships.
That's right. And you're right. He knows what it takes to get there, right? So, what would it take to get over the hump? And Lance, I mean, really, you've watched a lot of this Washington team. We all watched that game Monday night. What does it take to get over the hump? Maybe 2 or 3 more 5-stars, right? And it's easier to get those in Tuscaloosa than it is in Seattle, Washington. You got more 5-stars around you here. You got a better recruiting area, and that's going to be the telltale sign for him, how he's able to recruit here. That's going to be any coach, right? That was Nick Saban even. If Nick Saban came in here and recruited in the mid-teens, he would not have won 6 national championships. He was dominant in recruiting just as he was on the field, and that's going to be the challenge for Kalen DeBoer. And can he do that with, I mean, if he just went staff to staff, if it was just a straight move from Washington, from Seattle to Tuscaloosa, could that staff recruit here? I don't know the answer to that. They would probably find their way, but sometimes if you find your way, you fall so far behind, you'll never catch up. And, Kalen DeBoer is a smart guy. He knows how this game has worked, and he knows that is, number one, is recruiting inside the building. And that meeting started that last night with the guys that might be considering going into the portal, and then recruiting outside the building and finding the 4 and 5 stars that can keep this the elite program in college football.
I've got one more question, but I want to remind people, if you're watching us maybe for the first time, our show is live 9 to 12 Central every Monday through Friday, and then on our social media platforms at Next Round Live. If you're watching us on YouTube, our show is here with the video from this set every time. Brownie's usually here and not that dressed up. At Next Round Live on all of our platforms, and we have podcasts and other videos that go out 24 hours a day. And the best thing we do on our platform is, including this right here, once we're done, you can go back and watch the whole dang thing from the beginning again if you want to, if you missed any part, if you're just now hopping on, if you missed any part of the DeBoer news conference, the introduction, and then his trip down to the electronic media room for the Q&A, or Greg Byrne's Q&A. It's up there forever at Next Round Live, and we ask you to give us a thumbs up or a like and subscribe while you're here as well. Our coverage brought to you commercial-free by our friends at Bud Light and Budweiser. Brownie, the last one for me, and I thought this was important too. Behind you, if you'll turn around and look, you see all the wonderful jerseys on the wall, and that's only a few of them of guys that are in the NFL. I told you in local news, don't turn and point, just reference it with your head.
Jalen Waddle. I was pointing at Jalen Waddle.
Getting ready for the game,
There's no Rams jersey.
There's Tua.
I do not see a Rams jersey.
Where's my Barrett Jones Rams jersey?
My point being is that he did call out. He did call out to the old the alums. This will always be your school. This will always be your school, and we want you to be a part of it. That will be a major part of this, because that Nick Saban pipeline to those names on the wall back there were very important in recruiting. And those guys now, if they want the Alabama legacy, that script A that they're proud of to continue, it will become important now for those guys to sort of jump in and help preach a little bit too, I assume.
Well, and they sell that here, $2.2 billion in NFL contracts in Nick Saban's time in Tuscaloosa. And, in recruiting, look, Kalen DeBoer could be the best recruiter in the world, but if he's not getting guys to the NFL, if they're not developing to go to the NFL, players are going to look elsewhere. And, that's it. The days of I want to go play for good old University of Alabama, for the most part, are behind you. And that's true of any school. It's true of Georgia and Tennessee and Auburn and Texas. Guys want to go where they can get playing time, where they can play on good teams, and they can get to the NFL. And Kalen DeBoer will have to continue to sell that. And Lance, you know this. He's about to sell it this year. I mean, he will be able to go to recruits down the line and say, look at Roma Dunze that I coached. Look at Michael Penix that I coached, at Indiana and at Washington. Those guys are going to the NFL. So that will help him as he shows that at his last stop, he could send guys to the NFL and send them as very high picks. I mean, Lance, I know you think Roma Dunze could be the first receiver off the board, even in front of Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, he could be. I mean, when you start to look at it, I think he's got more, not to get too deep into this, more frontline speed. He's a little bit bigger than Marvin Harrison Jr. So Indianapolis will probably tell the story there. Dunaway mentioned our NIL relationships, and we used to have former Auburn quarterback and then former Oregon Duck quarterback Bo Nix on, and I'll never forget when he transferred, we asked him about Eugene, and he said he had never stepped foot there. And he basically just entered the portal and committed to Oregon without ever going there. And this has got to be one of those weird situations for a coach. You got to be able to make that decision quick. You're uprooting your family. You're a Midwest guy that was in the Pacific Northwest. Now you're going to the deep South. And I would assume they don't even know what house they're living in. You know, it's just one of those things. What kind of car are we driving? What kind of house are we living in? Things that probably aren't important to DeBoer, but it's just really interesting to uproot 3,000 miles away and come into a situation where you don't know anybody in the community, you don't know where you're going to live, and it just is about football.
I mean, I'm right in this. The national championship game was Monday, right?
It was, yeah. It's been a long week, man.
So, I know it has been a very long week.
Just this Monday?
Yeah.
I thought it was a week ago.
No,
Monday.
we're 5 days away.
Yeah,
so we haven't had a Monday since the national championship game.
No,
unbelievable.
No, we have not. No, it has been a crazy week. Imagine what it was like for him, though. Right? I mean, it's a crazy week. We're, except for Jim sleeping at the studio, we're sleeping in our own beds. We're in our normal, somewhat routine. So he finishes the championship game Monday. That's late Monday night. They don't get back in Seattle until Tuesday. By Friday, he's the head coach at Alabama. I mean, it has had to have been a whirlwind for Kalen DeBoer. I know Greg Byrne said he hasn't slept. I can't imagine how much Kalen DeBoer has slept. It is crazy how fast this moved. And to Byrne's credit, in that meeting back on, what was that, Wednesday? When the Alabama team was told in 72 hours, you'll have a head coach, Greg Byrne got it across the finish line there. And you got to give him credit for that. How successful this hire remains to be seen. But you've hired a respected coach. Almost all the voices in college football say they respect this guy. And you did it in your time frame of 72 hours. I really, without a coach already being on staff, being promoted, it's hard for me to remember a quicker coaching search. I mean, think about this. Gerard Mayo was on staff in New England. Johnny Cogden of ABC 3340 is over here, and he's fired up. You like Gerard? You like Mayo? C+. He gave it a C+.
Typical Boston fan.
Yeah, give him this.
Typical Boston fan.
give him this line. So he's requesting Mayo on the side.
Dunaway says you're requesting Mayo on the side.
Yeah, more of a Miracle Whip.
He said he's more of a Miracle Whip guy. But I mean, Gerard Mayo, that was like a 24-hour hire. He was already in house. It was like the coach in waiting, basically. And I mean, you almost had DeBoer hired as quick as that. So that was pretty quick work by Greg Byrne, which tells you, he had a strategy knowing that this was possibly coming with Nick Saban.
Well, Dunaway brought this up that, other fan bases are probably going to be critical how Greg Byrne answered that question on, was this your first choice? That, it's not a first choice. It's A, B, C, D. We go through this when I can sit down and within a few minutes I can tell this is the guy. And that's what I got with DeBoer. But he did bring up they met on Thursday. So say what you want. It might have been 1, 2, 3, 4. Doesn't really matter at this point. But he met within 24 hours with Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty remarkable to think about, right? Is that you didn't have to go sit at your desk and take a breath and say, my God, where do we go from here? He had a strategy. And, if it involved landing in Norvell and, DeBoer, whoever it was, but he had a strategy. And you're right. Within 24 hours of Nick Saban, announcing his retirement, at least, or Alabama announcing Nick Saban's retirement, Nick Saban telling the team at 4:00 on Wednesday, he was already meeting with Kalen DeBoer. And I found it interesting, not only because I asked the question, I just thought it was interesting that he talked about the way he discovered Kalen DeBoer is he just goes to his office and watches coaches on YouTube. So, Alabama Athletic Director Greg Byrne, isn't that different from us, right? That's kind of what we do is we just watch old games on YouTube. And he found Kalen DeBoer and liked what he brought to the table.
Yeah, I do the same thing. The problem is Saban can't be a candidate. He already had the job and decided not to do it anymore. Go ahead.
Hey, before we wrap, I wanted to bring EG in. She's here as well. Emily Grace McWhorter. I'm sorry, EG.
Way to stumble,
just stumbled right through your name.
Way to stumble over that name. You got Kalen DeBoer.
I got Kalen DeBoer. Well, I'm just your thoughts. You've been here today. You've been in all of these. What is kind of your perspective?
I think it was a really cool day to be part of, and seeing Kalen DeBoer's passion and excitement to step into a role. And like Greg Byrne said, he wasn't nervous about it. He didn't seem to shy away from it, even on this big of a stage. And that was really encouraging. And just seeing how he plans to really step into this role was really special.
Yeah. You cover a lot of these press conferences. You're here. You're in Auburn for us every week. And you've seen Hugh Freeze. You've seen Nick Saban. Kalen DeBoer kind of fit into that, right? He seemed comfortable in the situation.
He did. And I was thinking the last time I saw a coach standing at this podium, it was Nick Saban. And it was kind of strange not to see Coach Saban. And I've only been here for a season, so I can't imagine how other people that have been here much longer than me feel, but it seemed very natural to me.
Yeah.
He really embraced it and looked like he was excited to begin this journey.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I'll tell you, Brown, the accounting department wants to know if we had the largest staff at the news conference today of local media in Birmingham.
Well, nobody knows the difference if I say yes, right? So I'm just going to say yes.
Just go with yes. You know, EG, when she was interviewing students over the last couple of days, Lane Kiffin was that name that kept coming up.
Yep.
And to me, this far out exceeds what you would have gotten with Lane Kiffin. But I did say, you know, DeBoer is going to be one of these guys that wasn't a household name for college football fans really up until the last month. And I think about 75% of Alabama fans are probably on board. But by Monday, I would think it's like 99%. He's our guy now. We're all behind it. What are you hearing from some of these students that maybe didn't know who Kalen DeBoer was, but showed up last night at the airport? And now they've gotten to listen to DeBoer a little bit with this press conference.
I think that being able to listen to Coach DeBoer and what he said and just the notes that he hit, I loved what he said about how they're going to build the legacy, and it's going to be through class and through academic excellence and through integrity. I thought that was a great thing to put out there. And also him being transparent with saying, I want you guys to be all in. Don't, go halfway, be with me, stick through it. And he's not pretending to be Nick Saban. He's made that very clear. Him and his wife, Nicole, have their own entities, their own personalities, and they're not trying to replace them, but follow them and extend their legacy that they've created here at Alabama.
Isaiah Buggs tweets off of a tweet that says DeBoer is telling the alumni that played under Nick Saban to continue coming back to Alabama and that they're welcome anytime at practices or everything. Isaiah Bugg writes, this is what I was worried about because Nick Saban has always allowed us to come back and work out and use the resources. I'm thankful for this, all in. So that's pretty cool there, right? To have to call out for the alumni. You got to rely on your strengths, right, EG?
Absolutely. And what's funny is I haven't really seen that very often, but specifically saying we need you guys to still be involved with this program after you've had a coach that has been so influential in so many spheres of the entire sports world. And I love the response of that was what he was worried about. Nothing else. He just wanted to make sure that he could still call this place home.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Miami was in their heyday and they were out recruiting everybody. You saw all of these NFL guys on their bye weeks. They were back on the sidelines and they were really present. I think that fired a lot of those kids up. EG, you spilt your coffee?
Where?
Have you seen this? She spilt it in the presser all over the place.
Oh, no.
So,
look at that.
Lance, showing the picture.
Oh, it's in the news conference? Oh, yeah, but let me tell you.
It was
this is a great sign for you because one of the people that I first worked with, this is a true story, and you haven't seen it yet, Denny Chimes at A-Day, they put the permanent captain's cleat print and hand print, which is absolutely wet concrete, right? I had a young lady, I won't give her name, her first time working with me, she walked through the wet concrete.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And they had to move over it and put the guy's handprints and cleat prints back in.
Oh.
They had to redo the ceremony. And I'm over at the stadium, and I get a call from our friend who we all know, who we interviewed this week, and said, my God, Dunaway, who did you guys hire? She just walked through wet concrete.
I mean, look, you deserve to be called out if you walk through wet concrete. We need a name.
Let's see that picture again of the spilled coffee. There it is. Way to go, EG.
So, can I explain myself a little
Yes,
bit?
please.
I didn't tell you guys because I, thought I'd get away with it. Anyways, so I come into the press conference and we had been in the cold for about 45
That's true. Yes, it was very cold out.
minutes to an hour, and I wanted to make sure I got a good spot. So I secured the spot behind Kalen DeBoer's family where they'd be sitting.
Even worse.
And they didn't say media couldn't sit there. And so I make my little, area, have my bag, have my coffee. And the nice lady comes over and she's like, oh, hey, are you media? And I was like, how could you tell? And she's like, well, you need to go over there. Like, that part is reserved. And so as I'm getting up, I kick over the chai latte.
Not intentionally, though, right?
Not intentionally. No, not intentionally. I was like, oh my goodness, this would happen. There's going to be a stain of chai latte on the carpet to commemorate Coach DeBoer's first time here in Bryant-Denny. I go up to Aaron Suttles and I was like, I spilled my coffee. He was like, that was you? Like, that was me. And he said, well, if it makes you feel better, his first press conference that he attended with Nick Saban, he did the same thing and spilled his drink. And Coach Saban actually called him out for it in the press conference. So that did not happen to me, but I do apologize. That is not the Bama standard. I messed up. Coach DeBoer will not happen again.
That room where we were, there's been plenty of bourbon and missed parlays spilled up there, so you don't have to worry about that.
Again, these last 5 days have been incredibly insane for all of us, especially for Kalen DeBoer. But I mean, we talk about today's college football is 365 days a year. I cannot imagine what is next for him. There's no way he sleeps, because not only do you have to recruit your own roster right now, as he said, you've got to figure this staff out, and you still have to meet with the collective and get NIL going. I mean, what do you think the next 24, 48 hours is?
Well, I mean, I think you got to identify the key guys in your own building that are considering the transfer portal, and the ones that have already hit it, like Isaiah Bond and the Isaiah Bonds and Caleb Downs of the world. You immediately have to sell them on this. Here's my vision. Here's why you stay with me. You probably incorporate Nick Saban into that, right? You'd be silly not to. And you try to sell those guys, but at the same time, nobody in the state knows this guy is a head football coach. But you're not the coach at West Alabama. You're the coach at Alabama. So that script A is going to get you in a lot of doors quickly. So I mean, he's got to hit the ground running and find the important schools in Georgia and Alabama to start building those relationships. And I don't envy that. You're getting paid a lot of money to do it, and you've got one of the best jobs in sports. But that is a tough sell, because right now Hugh Freeze and Kirby Smart and all those coaches are out selling against Lane Kiffin. They're out selling against Kalen DeBoer right now. Like, why would you go play for a Pac-12 guy, right? Come play for the SEC. So he's got to fight that somehow.
And specifically Kirby and Sark, who have been with Nick recently and with a lot of his coaches. And there's a lot of intertwining between the three programs there, and they're all three in the SEC. And we've already seen T-Rob go to Georgia today, and there is some concern that maybe T-Rob, who recruited a lot of those defensive guys and beat Glenn Schumann to get him to Alabama, not Georgia. It came down to Alabama and Georgia, like it did with Caleb Downs. That T-Rob, the first thing he's going to do as soon as his name's on a contract at Georgia is to reach out to Caleb Downs and say, "Hey,
no doubt,
hey, I got a place for you over here." I will tell you,
you'd be crazy not to.
You'd be crazy not to, and that becomes a concern. But you just got to be comfortable with it if you're an Alabama fan, that you're going to lose some of these guys, and you hope enough of them stay around. You hope enough of them stay around, and you're still competitive and maybe competing for a championship next year. E.G., it's not your fault you spilled the coffee. It's everyone else's fault. My first professional news conference, Pat Dye, I was next to him, and he literally told me, whatever you do, don't knock this cup over. Now, I think it was a fire hazard. I think it was 120 proof of whiskey, but he told me not to spin. Don't turn it over, and I didn't. I stayed far away from the bourbon there. All right, our coverage brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. I assume from the emptying of the room that Nick Saban is not walking in to do a news conference, right?
No, I don't think you. I think he's probably on the PJ back to Jupiter right now, if I had to guess.
So I'm going to ask you: is that it coverage wise from Tuscaloosa, or should we keep rolling along?
That's it for us live. EG is going to kind of put some of her thoughts in a package for a little bit later on, but I think we've given you all we got here.
Okay, so our coverage is winding down here. We appreciate Ryan Brown, Emily Grace McWhorter, Scott Forrester over in Tuscaloosa with that live coverage. Thank you to all of you who watched with us today. Thank you to Bud Light allowing it to be commercial free, and to Tyler and Lunsford and everyone who has come in on a Saturday to keep our coverage continuing on. We're back with you at 9 a.m. Central Time. Coming up on Monday with our show, but on our social media platforms at Next Round Live, everything from YouTube to Twitter, X, Twix, as some people call it now, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. We're everywhere at Next Round Live. Remember to like it, thumbs up, and everything. And we've got all sorts of stuff that's continuing to go out. A final thought from you, Lance.
Well, look, I thought he did a great job. It was airtight. I think Alabama fans are really impressed. But look, what will matter is once we get to September, I know we're all planning on being at Camp Randall. And that is the first road game for Kalen DeBoer. That is going to be the first, semblance of, we're going against a Big Ten team. What is this product going to look like? And then it gets really real the next week when you host Georgia. So, the proof is going to be in the results, and we'll see ultimately how that works out. But again, if I'm an Alabama fan, I would have been more than excited about the hire. And after watching the press conference, I'd be really, really excited. We'll see what he's able to do with the internal roster. We'll see what he's able to do with his coaching staff. But I give the guy an A+ today.
Thanks for all the compliments and the coverage in the chat room. Hello, L.A., to Faith out there who's watching, Alabama fan in Los Angeles today. So a little faith in the new coach in Tuscaloosa, from Tuscaloosa all the way out to the West Coast. Kalen DeBoer, coach number 28 in Alabama's long historic football history. NFL football playoffs later today. Basketball for Auburn and Alabama tonight. All of our coverage right there at Next Round Live on all of our platforms. Thanks for being with us. 9 a.m. Central Time Monday. Until then, God bless you and God bless America.